Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. Today, we're featuring a new inclusive private school for young children that's coming to San Antonio. It's the Rise School of San Antonio. And we have, let me introduce our guests. So in the middle of the screen is Vanessa Hurd, who's a founding director of the Rise School of San Antonio. And then across the screen is Carter English, who's the founder of the Rise School of San Antonio. So I'm really excited. This is. I know Vanessa called me a few months ago. I was driving in my car and like so excited, but also tried to drive safely while I listened. But I could tell her passion came through, and she shared with me a little bit about Carter's story and his family, and like why they're so motivated to bring this school. It fills a niche that we don't really have here in San Antonio. So can y'all explain more, like what is the Rise School of San Antonio? Because I think very few people in San Antonio have heard about this school model yet.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having us today. Excited to get to share a little bit more. Stuff like this just reminds me of what an awesome network of people there are in San Antonio. So the work that you're doing is really greatly appreciated, and we're just grateful to have an audience to be able to talk to you today. I guess I'll kind of share a little bit of my backstory and the heart behind what we're doing, and then I'll let Vanessa shed more light on the blocking and tackling, if you will, of the school itself. And so my wife and I came here from Fort Worth, I guess it's almost been 2 years, 18 months ago. And so when we moved, my wife is a saint. She was 7 months pregnant at the time, and you're not going to meet a lot of women that are willing to make that move. And so through a lot of prayer and conversation, we just felt led to come down here ultimately because of a work opportunity that I had. To run the Central Texas region as managing partner for Higginbotham Commercial Insurance. And so when we came down here, not knowing anybody, just welcoming a new opportunity, we arrived, and 2 months later, our daughter, Isabelle Grace English, was born. And surprisingly to us, despite all the medical screening that we had done previously, Isabelle was born with Down syndrome. And so being in a new city, being far away from family and friends and network and church and all of those things, we certainly felt overwhelmed, uncertain, just a lot of fear and anxiety around the situation altogether. Of course, as time went on, Isabelle is the greatest thing ever. You'll hear me refer to her as Izzy. She's our greatest joy. She's the most fun. She's just an awesome, happy, healthy baby, which is what you want for any of your kids. And so as she continued to grow and progress over her early months of her life, we quickly realized a gap in terms of level of care in one of the largest cities in the United States. The Rise School, which is a well-established, nationally recognized model that began in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, really from head coach from the football team there, Gene Stallings, who had a son with Down syndrome. And it started in Alabama, and went from there to Dallas, to Houston, to Denver, Colorado, to Austin, to Corpus Christi, because of this world-class model. And we quickly realized that the Rise School didn't exist in San Antonio. And we've just always had the posture that, that we wanted to leverage everything in our life, including our kids and any opportunities that we had, for the most good that we could possibly do to the people, for the people around us and in the communities that we lived in. And so again, through a lot of prayer and conversation, and really at my wife's urging to say, either we need to move to where there's a Rise School to offer our daughter the best that we can, or we need to start one here. And so my wife and I decided that we were going to pursue that endeavor. And so we started down this path, announced our intentions, were able to get enough money to get this off the ground, and then serendipitously from there, we're introduced to Vanessa, who I think many of you in the city probably are very familiar with the work that she's done with the Museum, amongst other endeavors. And so we're just absolutely thrilled to have her. As I've said to her before, she's kind of the kerosene to the small fire that we started to help this continue to progress to the point that we are today, to even be able to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, Carter, I really appreciate that. Actually, so if I can, I try to not make these things about myself, but I know I just want to kind of share a personal story. Like for my thinking about people with Down syndrome evolved. And part of it is because I have a son with autism, and he's 16 now. But for many years, he was in speech therapy. And one of the speech therapy practices we went to, there was a patient on almost the same schedule. And he was a young man with Down syndrome who had amazing verbal skills, literary skills, and really expanded my sense of what's possible for people with Down syndrome. And also just like every person with Down syndrome I've ever met has been just a joy to be around. And part of this process opened my eyes, because as I realized, like, what does autism mean, right? And it's very genetic, and there's a lot of people in my family who have autism characteristics. And my husband and I, we might very well have been diagnosed with autism, had we lived a generation later. And then when I, hear things about, like what is the value of a life if people have these differences, these cognitive differences or communication differences. And so I've become a believer that people with Down syndrome, people with autism are so essential to be part of society, and that we need to care for them, and we need to help see their potential. Because part of why SA Charter Moms exists is that it came out of my fight to make sure that my son was seen and recognized and got the best possible setting. I had to get him out of a setting where people had low expectations for him, and I would not tolerate that. And that made me angry enough that I would do just about anything, including as an introvert, as somebody who may be on the autism spectrum. Here I am with a YouTube channel, and I never thought that would happen. So, I want to salute you and your wife, and just this entrepreneurial instinct, because I think so many problems can be solved by people saying, well, why not me? Like, this needs to exist. And you can look around and see models that are succeeding elsewhere, and how to expand that. Because I looked at mom blogs, and that's how I was interacting with the Doozium, right? As I would, as a mom blogger, go and try new exhibits, and well, how do we bring the mom blog model to education? So anyway, so I want to share my personal journey of appreciating just how valuable people with Down syndrome are for our society, and why it's so important to give them as much educational opportunity as possible. Because I saw this young man who saw the same speech therapist as my son, and he was just an incredibly wonderful person to interact with. He was probably in his maybe late 30s at the time frame that I was interacting with him, and just had achieved so much that most people would never expect someone with Down syndrome to be able to do. So anyway, sorry for hijacking the chat. It was really important for me to share that, because my understanding has really changed and grown over the years.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I think, I'll tell you in the spirit of sharing kind of personally, Taylor and I's prayer for our daughter from the time before she was born was always that God would use her in amazing ways to change the world. And I remember when she was born very vividly thinking, well, I guess that's not going to happen now. And that shows kind of just where my head was and my heart was about what does it mean to have Down syndrome. Now I laugh all the time with Taylor, my wife. I'm always like, well, God's answering that prayer way faster than I thought he would, because of what we're pursuing. And yeah, our daughter has been, like I said, the greatest joy. And honestly, going to the Rise School and observing, the adults that are employed there that have special needs, and seeing a path for my daughter to contribute in significant ways one day to society and to other kids was really eye-opening for me. So similar to you, it just like anything else, that's why representation matters. To be able to see a picture of what can be allows other people to achieve and strive past that.
Yeah, there is a grief process. I think I'm just so stubborn, or I don't know. People said I was in denial. Like, Inga, your son has autism. Why are you so optimistic? I'm like, I can't help it. But we, family members who went through grief, thinking that, oh my gosh, our son has so many limitations. Like, there's so many things he won't be able to do. And I'm like, I don't accept that answer. We'll find another way. And he's actually not in special education anymore. He advocates for himself. He's in a dual credit college class now. Doing all kinds of things that when he was 3 and 4 years old, people told me he would never do. So yeah, anyway, so I completely understand that grief experience, but just also, it's so important to recognize, like, God has big plans for every person on earth, and your daughter is already having a big impact. So I salute her. So, okay, sorry, Vanessa, it was supposed to be your turn to talk, and I hijacked it. But yeah, I want to hear about how you, and I think you told me this in the car, but like I said, I was driving, but how did you connect up with Carter? And
Sure.
what do you see about the Rise School model?
Yeah, so as many things in life, part of our connection and my involvement in the Rise School grew out of something very personal and professional. Personally, I too am a mom of a special needs kiddo. My oldest has a seizure disorder, so looked a lot like autism when he was younger. So needless to say, we were knee deep in all of the therapies for many, many years. And when I met Carter and he was telling me his story, the first thing I recognized was a very familiar, and Inga, you're describing this beautifully, but a very familiar sense of urgency and absolute determination of a parent with a child of special needs to find the very best resources that they can for their daughter. And the difference was here is, absent having it immediately available, Carter and Taylor said, let's build it. So I recognized that sense of urgency and that determination. It reconnected me to my, my own, mama determination when Owen was little. And then on the professional side, I just love to build powerful visions that I believe can really change our community for the better. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, just a bit, some of the things that make the Rise School so special. But I am really personally convicted that we can and must do better as a community in meeting the needs of our special needs population in their very earliest years. When we intervene successfully, as the Rise School will, from the ages of 1 to 6. So the goal will be to mainstream successfully into kindergarten. When we do that, we transform the life paths of these children and these individuals so that they may lead the productive, happy lives they deserve to lead. And you both have kind of spoken candidly about our previous misconceptions as a community about the potential of individuals with neurodevelopmental delays like Downs, like autism spectrum, like cerebral palsy. And as a community, as we learn more and more about the fact that these individuals have enormous potential and can be and should be contributing members of the society, we need to prove that through the work of organizations like the Rise School, and we need to keep pushing as our community to have more and better offerings for individuals with these neurodevelopmental delays.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. That's really helpful. So I know when I was prepping you guys for this, I said, well, I'm going to ask about academics, but it's like it's a little different with young children. Like play is learning, right? So we have to kind of like take off our A through F accountability hat and kind of put on our early childhood frame of mind, and think about that. But can y'all talk more about the such as academic model as it is, but understanding that this is for young kids and what kind of foundation? Because I think it's very interesting. You said that the goal is to give them that foundation, and then they could go to like a mainstream environment for kindergarten. So like just the other day we were talking about Celebrate Dyslexia schools, and like their goal is that kids could go to high school in a typical environment.
That's right. Do you want me to jump?
Yeah.
Well, let me answer it this way, Inga, if it's okay. There are three things that make the Rise School really special. Starting with just frankly the class sizes. For every group of 12 kids, you're going to have 3 highly trained adults. And those ratios are beneficial and necessary to do the kind of one-on-one specialized work that these kiddos deserve. The second thing I think that makes it a special model is that it's truly inclusive. So half of the kids at the Rise School will have neurodevelopmental disabilities like Downs, cerebral palsy, seizure disorders, autism, spina bifida. The other half will be typically developing. Why? Because research has shown that all kids, all, learn better in that environment, right? It is the model that brings out the unique strengths of every single child and really uniquely prepares all of them, not just the special needs kiddos, but the typically developing kiddos as well for kindergarten and beyond. And then the third thing that makes RISE truly special is that when we think about special needs, we tend to kind of think about, we isolate unintentionally, right? With kids that need additional services, we tend to kind of pull them out of the settings that they're in, and we tend to look at it as an intervention and a one-on-one kind of isolating intervention. The RISE model has shown, and as Carter said, this has been around for 40 years, that a better way to do that is to push in services. So every week in every classroom at the RISE school, the students will get 2 hours of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and music therapy. And because it's all integrated into the learning environment, every single child benefits. And the teachers that are leading the class throughout the week are also able to reinforce all of those skills during all of the classroom hours. So it really does differentiate the program and make it a really highly effective intervention for kids ages 1 to 6. Of course, with the curriculum, we're building cognitive skills, thinking skills, obviously giving kids a lot of opportunity to explore their physical bodies, their small motor skills through their hands, and their large motor skills through their arms and legs. We're giving them lots of opportunities to learn about their social and emotional selves so that they can learn to really be to calm their inner self and to regulate their inner self, which enables them to then begin to interrelate with other kids and to solve problems with other kiddos. Those are incredibly important skills to learn going into kindergarten. So of course, the model is inclusive of some really good curriculum that strengthens all of those skills and does so in a really joy-filled learning environment, right? The people that work at RISE love the model, love being there, and love working with little kids.
Yeah. Well, no, that makes so much sense. I think some of the like as you talk, like I think back about like what things made the most difference for my son. And again, I only have experience with autism, but those things like the self-regulation, like that allows kids to be independent and function in so many different settings, even when there are things that might right. My son has sensory issues because that's a common comorbidity with autism, and right. So being so understanding of that's really helpful.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
We have to say one more word about that is anything we do through intervention has to generalize to the broader world. So, which is another reason why the idea of just one-on-one therapy outside of the learning environment is not going to be as successful as doing it within the setting that they're operating in every day.
Yeah. No, I think like some of the best speech therapy services my son got, it was they would talk about like, okay, like in your school day, you're going to have these situations. Let's practice like, how do you handle this stimulus? How do you handle this? How do you handle this? So he could, learn it in the therapy session, but then apply it, right. in different like real life situations. And like, that kind of thing really helped him to, better social skills and better relationships with his peers. So yeah, that totally makes sense. So, well, okay. So a question I ask about all schools is about like culture, which means so many different things, but it could mean like, and I know the RISE School in San Antonio doesn't exist yet. So, but I'm sure you guys have spent lots of time at the other RISE School campuses. So if you could talk about like what does it feel when you enter a campus? Like, are there events or traditions that, that are part of RISE culture? Like how is parent involvement and things like that?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, and I'll speak to it first from a parent's perspective. The first school that I had the opportunity to visit was in Houston, and I can tell you, for me, it was a pretty emotional experience just watching it and observing it for the first time after all the buildup and everything I had heard about it. I think one of the first people that we met was a young man who has Down syndrome and who's a full-time employee of the school, and he's worked there for more than 10 years. And we just had a very normal interaction, and the conversation was a very typical interaction and conversation I would have had with anyone. But the pride that he had in the work that he did every single day his level of understanding of the value of his work that he was providing to the students and to the staff. The way that he spoke about how he enjoyed the people that he worked with, all of those things to me really stuck with me and were a great, first kind of intro to the school to see that, picture, as I talked about, of representation early on. But then I was just so blown away from all of the therapists and teachers. They are what Vanessa always lovingly refers to as, therapy people. They are enjoying the work that they're doing. They're extremely collaborative. The kids are at the center of everything, and everything is a learning opportunity. And being in that inclusive environment, even from the typical kid, I learned so much in terms of, if I was a parent of only a typical child, why would this matter to me? What is there that benefits from it? Observing students without special needs, helping their peers without being prompted to do so was pretty remarkable. And so this culture of integrated learning without separation, honestly, even just for me as an adult, was a great reminder of the ways and the power of interaction and inclusivity, and what RISE has done, whether it be in Houston or Dallas or other campuses like Austin. The playbook, if you will, that they provide, and the, I guess, emphasis that they place on culture is palpable in all of those locations. And so I'll let you expound if there's anything you'd add to that.
I wouldn't add very much to that. Just a couple of quick things. I mean, Carter talked about therapy humans. It's really fun. I mean, one of my lasting impressions, every time I walk into a RISE classroom, and remember, there are 3 adults for every 12 kids, and then there's an adult assistant that is a special needs individual. But every time I walk in, I have to kind of ground myself. I cannot tell who's in charge, because every adult is doing the exact same thing with kids, and that is leading them in discovery, one-on-one or in very small groups. And that, to me, is an incredibly important part of the culture, where every single adult feels responsible and empowered to do what's best and right for kiddos. And unfortunately, we don't always see that in our school settings, so it's really notable. And the second thing I will add is, the culture is built around a love for early childhood, compounded by a love for the special needs community. People that start working at RISE often stay at RISE a very long time. So it's typical when we're visiting schools around the state to be meeting people that have been teaching there for 10, 12, 15, I think 18 years is the highest that I've found. But people come and they stay because they love it, and they love to work collaboratively in the environment. It's a highly just collaborative setting filled with love and joy.
But I think what gets me thinking is like how beautiful to create this culture at the RISE schools environment. And I hope that part of why, what's gotten me working in education is like I want these ideas to spread to the broader world, right? So I get so excited. I mean, I learn about charter schools with so many different models, but I think that like the common thread is that they want the children to be more and more self-driven, and so that when they're adults, like they can fulfill their dreams. They have this idea that they themselves can make a difference. And what I hope is that through the like all these movements in education, right, that by creating like schools with more positive cultures, we're creating a new generation of adults with more positive ideas. And so what I'm hoping through RISE schools, right, that this will create an environment that shows the importance of inclusivity. And then there are pockets of this, right? Like my kids love going to Morgan's Wonderland, because like my son and my daughter, who's neurotypical, can both participate fully. And I think environments like that are really important. And I hope that broader society, becomes more inclusive. So that's why it's so important to have, RISE as the seed of these ideas, and then they can, take hold hopefully with more people in our community.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you saying that, and I think that's jointly important to us. And candidly, it's part of the work that you're leading and facilitating, Inga, which is wonderful through the school choice movement or through just the proliferation of different types of schools and empowering people to find the best one for them. It really just, it suggests that different models of education are good and right and continue to push the broader sector to do better by kids. And that's certainly what our hope and expectation is for the RISE School. We want to deliver with excellence to the 100 or so families that we're going to be serving at scale. We also want to work collaboratively with our peers within the early childhood intervention community to think about what can we learn from the work at RISE. We're going to be taking a couple nonprofit leaders next month on a field trip to one of the RISE schools, actually in Austin. And so this is a conversation that we're really excited to be a part of and hopefully can play a role as a demonstration project and beyond with what does it look like to do inclusion really, really well? And what does it look like to really have as your sole focus, ensuring that all kiddos are ready to go at kindergarten and beyond.
And in these other cities, to add that, those RISE schools in Houston, Dallas, and Austin, they're really beacons in that city where you see school districts sending teachers to the RISE schools to observe and learn and be collaborative with that staff to understand how do we do integration better when these kids go mainstream. And that's really the goal of the RISE school ultimately, being its early childhood, is we want these students, both the typical and non-typical, to be able to integrate really well into the public school setting and to be set up for their highest chance of success. I mean, the fact is, with our daughter, we're going to do everything we can to ensure that she gets the best service that she can possibly get. But to the point that you made, us just impacting our daughter or even just 100 families doesn't change the ecosystem of the city at large. It takes a collective effort, and it takes each of us pushing each other in the city to do better and to push that ball forward. And so, as Vanessa said, it's a joint passion that we have in saying, how do we impact the most amount of people, and how do we have the most significant influence that we can for the betterment of the greatest number of kids. So. Yeah.
Well, that's super important. I want to circle back to what Vanessa mentioned, like at scale, serving about 100 or so families. But like, can y'all talk about what stage y'all are at now? Like, like I'm excited. Like I get to help break this news, to the San Antonio community. But like, I always like to include like the call to action. Like, so how can people, who are getting excited about this, what can they do? How can they stay informed? And then kind of what's the timeline that you hope to be able to have a school that's ready for kids?
Yeah, let me start with your last question first, Inga. Timeline, we are opening August 2024. And we are blessed, frankly, by the partnership with Christus Children's downtown, who is providing space for the school on their campus and is also lending resources to us in the form of therapists. And both of those things are obviously going to help control costs for the model tremendously. But we are starting in August. We're starting with 2 classrooms, a classroom of 1-year-olds and a classroom of 2-year-olds. And ultimately, we'll be growing to 10 total classrooms for kiddos ages 1 to 6. So at this point, we are really in, focusing on the bullhorn. So helping to spread the word about the school, its mission, what we hope to achieve in San Antonio. So thank you to the Charter Moms community for helping to do this. We encourage anyone who is interested in learning more to reach out to us, info@riseschoolsa.org. We would love to engage with you. Please do follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We have active presence on both of those sites, and we'll be expanding our website. Will be available in the next week. Additionally, we are in hiring mode for our school director and teachers. So if any of you are early childhood people, therapy humans, and you love to collaborate, please do get in touch at the info address, info@riseschoolsa.org, and we would love to talk to you.
That's really exciting. Okay, yeah, that being at Christus Children's, that makes perfect sense. And back in my mom blogger days, I remember going on a tour down there. So they, the medical places have come such a long way in terms of feeling more warmer and more welcoming to folks. And and how great that they can share their therapists, their therapy humans, their expertise. So
yeah,
it's a great partnership. We, as she said, we feel super blessed. Their CEO actually came from Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, where she got to witness the work of the Rise School of Houston firsthand, and has been one of our biggest supporters from the very beginning, and has also lent a lot of credibility from the scientific side of things in terms of this model and the way that it works. And so it really is a hand in glove type partnership that we're just really excited to be able to share, and grateful for their support.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like so, and it's sort of mea culpa. The blog post is not published yet, but folks will be able to go to the description of this video and click and go to sachartermoms.com. So, or if anyone goes to sachartermoms.com and goes to the blog part, search for Rise School, and then that will have more links to the that email address. I'll put that up on the screen again. So info@riseschoolsa.org. So this could be for somebody who wants to teach, who has a passion for young children, and has expertise in, like you mentioned, speech, OT, music therapy. You're looking for people with all these areas of expertise. So, and like families who, so you said it's going to open August 2024 with a 1-year-old's classroom and a 2-year-old's classroom, right?
Yes, and please, families, yes. We are going to be starting in February with playdates to meet prospective families and their kiddos. And so information will be posted to our website very soon about those dates. In the meantime, please do communicate with us via the info address. But we are moving fast and furious, and really are looking forward to engaging with as many families as possible. Yeah,
and we'll share when there's news. We'll share it in the discussion group on Facebook. So that's for anyone who's not a member yet. So if you search San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group, or we've got the link there up on the screen. It's kind of a mouthful, but we're closing in on 13,000 members. So there are plenty of us in there who have children with learning differences. So it's a welcoming place. You can share about your struggles. You can share about your concerns. We all get worried about what future there is for our kids. But learning about what's happening at all these different schools has made me so much more optimistic about the future. My greatest stress is the information gap, that not enough people know about these options. So I'm doing my best to spread the word, and then encourage everybody who's watching this, reading this, tell your friends about it, and then that will get the information to the people who need it in a timely manner, so that we can help kids when they're young and they have the most flexibility in their brains, and then that will help them reach their greatest potential.
You said it. It's absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do y'all have any closing thoughts? We covered all the questions that I wanted to ask, but I want to thank you. I mean, Vanessa, you have, in multiple iterations, you've done so much for this community, and I'm just so thankful that you have found another passion project. 'Cause I know anything you work on, you always bring so much energy to it, and that that you will make this a great success as well. And Carter, I want to thank you for being sharing about your family story, and being vulnerable about your your discovery process about this, and I want to salute your courage for sticking your neck out about this.
Well, yeah, I think the only parting thoughts that I would say is just to thank you. Really appreciate, again, the platform and opportunity to continue to share what we're doing for this school to be successful. And Vanessa and I know this full well. is it's not about our individual successes. It's about community success and buy-in, and the community owning the school and owning this space where, as you said, is such a pivotal time in a child's development. And so if we can do that well as a city, if we can partner well together, if we can support causes like this one well, then it'll be tremendously successful because of the community, not because of any one individual.
Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better. This is you know, we get to be the ones that you know, birth this beautiful thing in the community. Sorry, males can give birth to, but this is you know, this is going to be held by the community itself, as Carter said, and our hope and our joy will be that it serves the children most in need of its services moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, just to close it out, let's see. So we've been talking about the Rise School of San Antonio, and the best way to get in touch is for folks to email info@riseschoolsa.org. So thank you, Vanessa and Carter, for sharing, and I look forward to keeping in touch as the school takes form.
Thank you, Inga, so much, and thanks to your community.
All right, take care.